I am Anna Seawold, and this is Authentic Parenting, a podcast about personal development in the context of parenting, where I explore how you can find more calm, connection, and joy in parenting through the process of self-discovery and inner growth with a trauma-informed lens. Today's episode is an on-air coaching call where you get to be a fly on the wall and peek into someone's life as I coach them live on air. On-air coaching calls are one-time, unscripted sessions, and the participant and I get into them without any prep work ahead of time. I personally enjoy conducting those sessions as I love the challenge and the spontaneity of those calls. It also gives you a bit of a taste of how I work with my coaching clients. So if you ever wanted to work with me, now you know how it might look like. To learn more, go to my website, authenticparenting.com, and as a listener, you always get 10% off on all my coaching packages. People who participate in those calls are usually members of the Authentic Parenting community who have applied to be coached on air. So if you would like to be coached on air, there is a short application which you can find in your show notes. Fill that out and I will be in touch. Today, I help Kelly, a mother of 3 young children. Originally from Brazil, she's finding it hard raising her family in the United States without the support of an extended family. In addition to not having her family nearby, her husband is working long hours as he has his own business. So a lot of the heavy lifting of the parenting falls on her shoulders. And at times, it can be emotionally draining, demanding, and challenging. We talk about the importance of exposing our children to other attachment figures. We see a trend now in the United States. I often talk about this in my presentations that our children have impoverishment of relationships. It is not only healthy, but necessary for Kelly's children to have access to other people, to other attachment figures. Not only this will give Kelly a bit of kid-free time, but it will allow her children to expand their relational network, develop their relational skills, and enrich their repertoire of relationships. Life with 3 young children can be a little bit hectic and noisy, and it seems like Kelly is craving a bit of quiet time. Kelly walks away from our session with a few key insights and revelations, which I think will put her on a new growth path. We also discuss some topics: space sharing, sibling rivalry, establishing and respecting boundaries, and carving out some quiet time for Kelly. Did you listen to the last month's coaching episode with Zara on setting firm limits with kindness? It's a great episode, and Zara posted an update in our Facebook group. I would like to share that with you. She said that the first 2 weeks were a disaster. She mentions that she took 4 main points from our coaching call and put it into practice. The first one was reconnection. 5 to 10 minutes after school, we just sit and talk or refill our water bottles in his school cafeteria and have a quick bite. Number 2, point out his feelings. He wanted to get something I don't remember now, and I did exactly like you said. Wouldn't it be nice to have all the things, whatever he was asking? And he looked at me as I was crazy. Honestly, that works all the time. We continued our conversation and forgot what he wanted to get. Point number 3, $2 pocket money. Couple of times he gave me a hard time and I was like, this is a bad idea. But now he knows how to manage it and even is saving it to buy the toy he saw. Point number 4, be present. Does the trick all the time, even for 5 minutes, and then you're good to go and do whatever you were doing as long as you're present at the moment he's asking you something or telling you something. And that's the end of the update. And I am thrilled to receive this update from Zara. And I'm so proud of her for putting into practice the things that we discussed during our coaching call. And now, please enjoy this on-air coaching call with Kelly, and I hope you'll find it helpful. Kelly, welcome to Authentic Parenting.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you here as you are one of the most loyal, faithful followers of the Authentic Parenting. We have met many times in real life. You came to the conference. We've worked together. It's like you've been part of my life for the past maybe 6 years, I guess, or more. Maybe 6 years.
Yes, that's what I thought. I think when I first spoke to you, I was pregnant with Nicholas, who's turning 5 in a couple of weeks.
There you go. So since you already mentioned that you have Nicholas, how many children do you have and what are their ages?
So I'm a mother of 3. Isabella is 8. Nicholas is turning 5. And Victoria is turning 2. Oh, Victoria is already 2. She turned 2 in July.
I guess with the third one, we no longer keep.
Oh my gosh!
Right? No,
she's very self-sufficient. I gotta say.
Yes, because she has 2 older siblings, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So raising 3 children away from your family in the United States, I bet is as easy as a piece of cake, right?
Oh, sure. The easiest thing I've done in life.
Well, tell us today then, what are some actual challenges that you face today that you would like to talk about? And perhaps together we can brainstorm and come up with new ideas, suggestions, maybe helpful tips, elicit some insight on your situation. And hopefully that will be helpful for you and some other people.
Sure. So I'm going to give you a little background story, right? I'm from Brazil. I've been here for 17 years, but I don't have much family here aside from 2 younger cousins who lives in New York. My husband is from Poland. He doesn't have any siblings, and his mom still lives in Poland. So my husband and I are basically here alone raising our children, right? My husband is also self-employed. So I say that I raise children and he raises a company, which is, it's like a family in many ways. And I'm pretty, I'm pretty involved with my children and in the care of them. And my husband is really more on the side of like making sure he provides for the family, right? So we assume those roles without sitting and talking about them. But it was just like what happened in the course of, our parenthood journey. And over the summer, kids usually, they don't go to summer camps. They each go to maybe a week, but they are mostly home with me. And we traveled and we did a lot of fun things, but I felt emotionally drained. Totally emotionally drained. Like from the time they wake up to the time they were going to sleep, it was a lot of interaction. There was very little quiet time, which I felt I was much in need of. And there was a lot of noise and a lot of fight between them. And I was always, if you know me, I'm like usually very patient and I like I will sit down with them through meltdowns. I let them express their emotions. But it got to a point that I just didn't have any more in me to kind of like empathize and offer to them. and and I felt like I was close to having an emotional breakdown. And that surprised me because I was always really worried about their emotional well-being, and I was just not being the mom that I set out to be. And not because I didn't know what to do, but because I just didn't have the energy to do it.
When you say it surprised you too, was this the first time in your motherhood journey you experienced this kind of burnt out moment?
The way I was feeling this summer, it was the first time. I'm not a yeller. I was yelling much more frequently. I'm not, I felt my emotions were out of whack. I was having meltdowns as well. I felt like a toddler. I swear.
Yes, because you had no resources anymore. Like you said, you were totally emotionally drained. And unfortunately, right, how can we be of any kind of support to anyone, let alone 3 children and a husband, if we have nothing to give? Especially summers are hard times when your children are not in activities or in summer camps. Do you think, based on this summer's experience, will you change things differently next summer?
It's always so hard because I remember having this conversation with a friend, and because last summer, as you're saying, summers are not easy. And last summer I had some complaints. It wasn't to that extent, but I had some complaints about being hard and having like 3 different ages to cater, and she's like, so what are you doing different this summer? And I was like, oh, we are traveling more, and we are, and we are doing more stuff as a family. But I still don't, I wasn't, the main thing is like, I wasn't raised in summer camps. You know what I mean? Like I was raised in summers where we went to the beach and we played, and you know what I mean? Like, and so the idea of summer camps, of putting my kids in a structured activity throughout the summer just sounds wrong.
Oh, hold on. This is what we have to focus on.
I know.
Yes. You are basically creating all of these things for yourself unnecessarily. Summers are hard. Kids are there. It's hot in New Jersey. You want to be this, I don't want to say perfect mom, but you don't want to let your children go.
Yes. And I think I'm just getting to this conclusion that we have a lot of togetherness in my family. You know what I mean? Like we are always together. So I drag like my 3 children with me back and forth almost everywhere. And I think there is a positive side of it, but I think I'm experiencing much more deeply the negative side of it. And I'm trying to find solutions where I can delegate my children, which for me doesn't come easy at all.
You know what? Yes. You are basically, here are the facts. You're raising your children in America and you don't have any family support. That's hard. That's completely hard. And you have 3 children of different ages. It's not like you have one child. I mean, not to minimize having one child, but having 3 kids, there's a lot of schedules to manage. There's a lot of driving to do in America, picking up, dropping off at preschool and daycare and things like that. Then you are an active mom as well. I know that you teach yoga and baby massage, and you want to be the woman that you want to be. And parenting is an emotional job, period. It's emotionally draining. As you mentioned at the top of the show, your husband also works. So the child rearing basically falls on your shoulders. which means you are also responsible for attending to every boo-boo, every meltdown, every temper tantrum, managing your own stress, the household, the cooking, the cleaning, the schedules. Well, that's a lot for a modern woman who also wants to establish her own business and do volunteer things. As I remember, you also volunteer, right?
Yes. I scaled back with that a lot.
Okay. So, and I know that you understand that our children can benefit from other people. We don't need to
Sure.
be our children's main attachment figures. In fact, it's healthy for our children to develop and maintain other relationships with other people, other adults, school counselors, or camp instructors or mentors, coaches, because that expands their relational repertoire. That makes them more emotionally intelligent, right? They get to practice more relationships. If we sort of monopolize our children's time and focus on our own relationship, right? I see this often happen in our culture. And tell me in your own words, what do you think are negative sides to this?
Um, I think one of the things is like you can't be your children's only source of emotional attachment because like everyone is different, and I think there is such a rich um, opportunity to experience like how different people deal with a problem or how different people react your to your issues, or you can learn from different people. I think the same thing said twice, or said in different ways, can be absorbed in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think there is a great value in that, a
Mm-hmm.
great value in my children experiencing other people, and you know what I mean, like, and being with other people. I think the summer camp per se, like this summer, what for me it's is also hard. It's like the whole year already. I wake up in the morning, I have to prepare everyone lunch and run out of the house to do drop-offs, to do pickups. And I don't want to sign up to that in the summer as well. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, there is no break for me either. So I think there is a little bit of like that rebellious self of myself,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like, I don't want to have to wake up and rush and pack everyone's lunch, because even though summer camp starts a little later than the school, ends up being the same. You know what I mean? Like the weeks that I had both of my children in summer camps, it's like, wake up, rush, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to be in that rhythm during the summer. So it's less about like me wanting to share my children with other people, which, yes, okay, you know what I mean? Like I would be, there are so many activities that sound so cool, and definitely I cannot provide that for them. But also what I think more is like the structured schedule. I think there is something about having a more loose schedule that brings other kinds of problems,
Yes.
but also other kinds of benefits,
So, well, let me debunk your myth. I'm not sure. In my area, for example, my daughter goes to summer camp, and there is a bus that picks her up and drops her off. So I don't have to, we don't have to drive her back and forth. So that solves the problem. And as you mentioned, it's not as early as school.
Yeah.
And in this summer camp, lunch is provided. I don't have to make lunch for my daughter. So have you looked at options around you, and maybe learn a little bit about some options that might be available? And second, maybe not all three of your children have to go to summer camp. Maybe if you send your older child, your daughter, to summer camp, then the two other kids, the younger ones, can be home, and they will have this loose summer relaxed vacation.
Yes.
But then I'm sensing mother guilt. I'm sensing guilt in you. Is that true?
I don't know if it's necessarily guilt. First of all, like I did try, like I sent one child to a summer camp 1 week and then the other child another week. So I had two of them at home and one was the summer camp. And I think it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
It worked. I also think it takes a toll on our budget to send children to summer camps. Summer camps, like in my area, or I think everywhere where we live in northern New Jersey, summer camps can be really costly. And because we have family overseas, I rather save that money to go, see our families than to spend in a summer camp. That was always my thought. So I do have some guilty, but my guilt is more involved in spending the money than in sending my kids away. You know what I mean? Like, I think if I would name my guilt, it would be on the spending the money part. And I think I have that even with sending my little one to school, or, you know what I mean? Like things like that.
Yeah. You rather spend that money helping your family, and preschool or daycare is costly in the United
Exactly.
States.
Yes. And in visiting my family, because I feel like there's such, like they have such a rich experience. They all love going to Brazil. They, like we went to meet my mother-in-law this summer. My mother-in-law hadn't met my 2-year-old yet. So, you know what I mean? Like I felt like she has to know her granddaughter. You know what I mean? Like I didn't grow up with my grandparents, around. So I do want that for my children, to have that relationship, even though they are not part of their daily lives, to have a relationship, even if it's long distance. So I do, sometimes when I think of summer camps, I think, do I want to spend this money here, or could I better spend this money elsewhere? But then there is a cost of not spending that money there as well. So it's a tough decision to.
It is. It is a tough decision because it involves your own health and well-being and your mental state and how you show up in your parenting.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned, it's totally draining. It's very stressful. And you are the sole, entertainer, provider, making kids happy during the summer and all of that. So perhaps you can find a different solution, either invite one of your family members, like a sister or your mom, who can be there as well, or maybe hire some help. I'm not sure. It again involves money, but maybe it's less, right, than sending children to expensive summer camps. What do you think about hired help, like a college student who can play and engage with your children, a few hours during the day, every day, summertime?
No, I think it would be fabulous. I was even in one of my child's summer camp. There
Mm-hmm.
was this boy. He was like 10 or 11, and he was playing with the kids, and he was so good playing with the younger kids, with like the 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds.
Mm.
And I was mentioning to his mom, I was like, oh, Nicholas would love having more boy energy in his life because he's surrounded by girls, right? That's another issue, right? Because I have Nicholas, who's a boy, right in the middle of two girls. And sometimes the way he wants to play is not necessarily the way Isabella wants to play or Victoria wants to play. And, and there is a difference, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be sexist, but his energy is just different from both of my girls' energies, all three of them are very active. Like they love playing outdoors, they climb trees, they jump, but Nicholas is the one who wants to roughhouse, and the girls are not so much into it. So I was speaking to this mom, and she's like, oh, he would love to do that. You know what I mean? Like, he loved children. And I always thought, you know what I mean? Like, why can't I just engage with this mom and get this boy to come over and play with Nicholas a few times a week? So definitely that's something I need to be more proactive about it instead of just sit and complain, I guess.
Yeah. Why didn't you follow up with that mom?
Because we were traveling the following week, and then we were coming back and then traveling again, and then I ended up never doing.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think you should get help. It's not shameful. It's necessary. It will be beneficial for your children. I think cognitively, intellectually, you know it, but somehow you have a hard time doing it. That's what I'm sensing, right?
Yes. And the other thing that I notice is I think the physical help is very, very helpful. But I really, and I don't know if I can solve this problem, but I really wish, like, when the summer was getting to the end, I was telling my sister, you have to move here. My children need you. I need you. Because I really wish they had more people around where they can have, with who they have emotional ties and with who they feel safe enough to unload their emotions. Because what I feel it happens, it's like very often, even if my kids are somewhere, they are at play dates or they are at school or at an activity or whatever it is, they will wait until they get home to unload those emotions, right? So, and maybe if I have the break, I'm more patient and more connected in order and to empathize and let them go through their emotions. But I also wish I had someone who could share this load a little bit, just because I find it's hard to be always the one who's kind of like helping them go through it.
Yes, I agree. And I don't know if we can find a solution for that today, but at least you could do something to take care of yourself. Speaking of self-care, knowing that you are the only person for your children to be that emotional support system. And it could be taxing for you, constantly give and listen and empathize. There's 3 children. What are you doing for yourself? Do you have someone that you go to talk, to offload? Number one. Second, what do you do for yourself in terms of daily self-care? And I'm talking about radical self-care, not getting manicures and pedicures once a month,
No,
or
I
getting
understand.
You understand what I'm talking about.
Yes.
We talk about in our Facebook group a lot. We talk about this kind of self-care, maintenance, stress management on a daily basis. It's a deeper self-care, not once in a while we do some superficial activity, but deep down we're still burnt and there's nothing to give. What are you doing to recharge, refuel yourself on a daily basis?
There are a couple of things that I started doing, and again, during the summer was harder to find time to do those things because I was constantly with my children. But one of the things that I've been doing for years is meditation, and I think it's super helpful. I have a person who I go to, and unfortunately we don't meet on a daily basis, but I try to do that at least once a week, if not, like a couple of times a month when this person doesn't have disponibility. And I try to do it on my own, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't find it's as, I don't know. There's a difference. But meditation is one of the things that I try to implement in my life. I did start exercising before summer started, and I feel like there's just the energy of like an exercise class. I go to an hour class, I just like sweat, and it helps move the energy and unload some of the stress. So I think that's been helpful as well. And just I try to go to yoga classes, but I feel like one of the things that would be most helpful for me in terms of self-care is to have a silent time of the day, to have like some quiet time. You know what I mean? And even when my children are around, because I feel I wait until they are in bed, and that's my quiet time. But then I end up going to bed too late and then not sleeping enough. And I think that creates another kind of issue. But I do feel creating a, a quiet time during the day is something that I need to do. And I have a deep issue with consistency, even for myself, which causes some troubles. But I feel I need that. It's just too much when it gets like to that 6:30 and I haven't sat, or I haven't kind of like taken a deep breath and connected with my own self.
So towards the end of the day, when you are about to prepare dinner, is it before dinner or after dinner?
It's when I'm preparing dinner, usually, when everything is happening.
So what can you do then to create that quiet time? I mean, I have several ideas, but I want you to come up with your own ideas based on your lifestyle and your preferences, you know?
Yes.
What do you think can help to create quiet time? Do you want noise canceling headphones? Do you want to put your children in the basement in front of the big TV and put a TV show? You know, there's so many things you can do that are good and bad for kids and for you. But I don't want to make any suggestions. So I want you to really be realistic and think about this.
I don't know. And maybe my idea is kind of utopic, but I think maybe if I would just sit down and kind of let them do whatever they are doing and make the noise they're doing, but just sit down, like cross my legs and be quiet, and they will bother me for a while. And I would just say, that's my time. That's my quiet time. Maybe I can put the headphones on and say, that's mama's time. And I don't know, I feel like I need to build a boundary. You know what I mean? Like I can't wait for everyone to be asleep.
Yes.
So then that's my time, because then I get very anxious for them to go to bed, because I'm like, I need my time.
Yes. I think this is a struggle many women face in their day-to-day life. I know that you're not the only one, because this is that balancing act. How can you plug in some time for yourself to quiet yourself while your children are there, and they're going to be, mommy, look at this. They're going to fight together. They're going to constantly need your attention. But I think setting boundaries and protecting 10-15 minutes of some time for yourself while your children are safe, and I'm sure you have safe spaces with toys for your children. Maybe create a refuge for yourself. Go to the basement, go to the bathroom, and clearly communicate that to your children, that mommy needs this. I mean, this is very good example for your children too. They will violate your boundary at first when you say, I just need to rest for 10 minutes. Be upfront and clear what you're doing, so that they don't feel like, you're tired of them or you're neglecting them. You're in the house, but mommy needs to take 10 minutes break. You guys play here. I'm right here. Communicate that clearly to your children. And of course, they will come and poke you and bug you and ask for things and all that. But you can be gentle and say that, mommy needs 10 minutes, sweetheart. Can you do your Legos? Can you help your sister? Something like that, so that they will understand eventually that, what, you're serious about this. And this teaches them how to be aware of personal boundaries themselves. Especially growing up in a large family like yours, right? I say it large because you are 5 people.
Yes.
Everybody is constantly violating each other's space. I'm sure your siblings take each other's toys. This was mine. I was sitting here first. That space sharing becomes an issue over time. But this is how I think we teach space sharing and boundaries and respect for each other's property, space, and personal need for quiet time.
Yes, and I think that's that hits right the point that that we encounter, like the biggest problem we encountered this summer, it was there was no boundaries, there was no respect for each other's space, or you know what I mean, like, or for each other's needs. It was always like trying to break through this, you know. So my daughter, my oldest, would be sitting down and reading a book, and then my middle child would come and jump into her, you know what I mean? And doing kids stuff, and you know what I mean, like, and it's just like, so there was, or my little one would be playing by herself. My middle one is like the one who sometimes is like, oh, things are too quiet in here, let's get some action, you know, like let's get some things moving, I can see, you know. And it's funny because I think it's so interesting how when I have each of them separately, how the dynamic completely shifts, or how when I have two of them, again, the dynamic shifts, you know. And it's having, obviously it's having the three of them that it gets harder.
Yes. You know what? I want to ask you a question. I'm not sure, you know, of course I haven't been to your house. I don't know your setup, but this is just an idea, and you may already have this. You know how in preschool they have designated space for like a little reading nook, art place? Can you maybe create, and perhaps you already have this in your home, designated space for art, quiet time, let's say loud toys, musical instruments, and things like that? Maybe separate visually. If you have one basement, maybe each corner of the basement could be designated to such space, or maybe the art space can be in the, you know, on the first floor, but the quiet reading space when children need a little quiet time. When I say quiet time, it doesn't have to be reading time. You know, not all your children read. It could be quiet time. When I need quiet time, either it's looking at the book, reading a book by myself, listening to an audio book, or playing with sensory toys. Create some kind of little corner like that, either in, you know, upstairs, away from the noisy environment where the kitchen is, or where the basement is where they play. Do you know what I mean? Do you have such?
Yes. So we do have that in the basement, where we have like different toys and different bins, and we take a bin of whatever you want to play with that day. And we have like an art corner in there. We have like a book reading corner in their room, where, you know what I mean, like if they want to read or draw in there, there is something in there. One of the things that I've been wondering, and I've been searching for, and I don't know, maybe you have some suggestions, is I've been looking for a device that I can let my children, like my oldest one is very curious about technology. She would, you know, like she would be in the computer for hours if I would let her, but we have really strict rules about computer usage. So, and I find like it's so hard to break out from the computer with her, even when she has like some homework or something in there, that I rarely allow her to be in the computer. So, but she also loves music and audiobooks, and I've been looking for a device that doesn't have something simple that I could give it to her and she could listen to music without having access to internet necessarily. And but then so it happens that most of our music is through the internet, so I'm having a hard time with that. Like, I do have a bunch of CDs in the basement, but you know what I mean? Like, but let's face it, you know what I mean? Like, if she wants the music that she's familiar with, it's all in Amazon Music, or, you know, or
if you listen to Spotify, you know, I'm sure you use Spotify as I do. What you could do, and I would love to hear from our listeners, maybe they have better ideas and suggestions. I'm not the most techie person, but this is what I would suggest. Yes, we get our music through the internet. However, you can have a little iPod Touch, right, for your child, that you can restrict certain websites, and you can restrict she can't type certain words. You can restrict time spent on the internet. You can put a lot of restrictions while allowing her to stream music through Spotify. I think that's one idea I have. I'm not sure how else can you listen to music unless you yourself are in charge of the phone and you're streaming and they're listening, or like old-fashioned CD and all of that. I'm not sure. I think you could block certain websites, or you can implement again the keywords that your daughter cannot search certain keywords, or those kind of things. I would look into that. But do your children know having the space is good? Are those spaces close to one another? Let's say if one child wants to rest and is using the quiet space, are the other children able to get into that quiet space? Or I think you need to create the designated spaces so that they are not on top of one another. You need to communicate to your children what the spaces are for and when and how they can be used. You can have rules. And when sister is in the quiet space, maybe only one person can use the quiet space at a time, right? Let's be respectful of that. I think having those kind of internal rules and teaching them to your children, they will eventually internalize. They will break those rules in the beginning to test and to oppose. But eventually, I think you need to be on top of it a little bit to set this in place, because everybody is going to benefit from this, including yourself. You know, they're going to be self-directed children. If your daughter wants to use the quiet space, she would know when she needs to use the quiet space. She would go to the quiet space, as opposed to saying, Isabella, go to your room to the quiet space. They should not be parental involvement like that, right? You can talk to your daughter and say, when you feel overwhelmed, when it's too much, or when do you want to use the quiet space? Go and use the quiet space, and communicate to the other kids. When someone is in the quiet space, you guys have to utilize other spaces.
I think one of the main issues with that is that my children will not go to a different floor in the house by themselves.
Oh.
Neither of them.
Really? Why?
So actually, my youngest one. So my oldest one is afraid to go into any room of the house by herself. So if she goes to the bathroom, she says, Mom, can you come with me? Or she'll ask my little one, my 2-year-old, because just having someone there, even if it's someone much younger than her, gives her a sense of comfort, I guess. So if she wants quiet time and I say, oh, you could go to your bedroom, you know, like, and stay there and close the door. She's like, I'm not going to go upstairs by myself. Are you crazy? You know,
are they scared of the house, or this is just this dependency that they've created?
I think there is a bit of both. There is a developmental thing of like being scared of like being in a room by herself. It's very, very seldom that she will like forget that rule she created for herself and go somewhere and stay there by herself. You know, like even the other day, like when she's taking a bath, someone has to be by the bathroom with her. You know, like she takes a bath by herself, but she needs someone to be there, you know. And the other day she was like in the bathroom by herself, and my mom was like, how come Isabella is there by herself? And you know, what she's up to, you know, that's just so silent. Because it's a constant, you know, like it's a constant need. And because Nicholas sees that Isabella doesn't do anything by herself, he just copies the behavior. With him, I think it's more like, oh, if she doesn't do it by herself, I shouldn't do it by myself either. And my youngest one will go like down the basement and play by herself. But Isabella won't go anywhere in the house. So I feel like it's an extra challenge to me to create all these separated spaces where we are all in the same room. You know what I mean? Like it takes me to actively drop everything I'm doing so I can keep 2 children from interfering with what one child is doing. Or I need I need to be playing with one of them and engaging them in something so the other two can have their space,
Yes, but this is a big challenge. Again, this is about
Right.
boundaries. And what's the origin of the root of this problem, do you think?
Well, Isabella is always like, she's always been the child who needs more attention. She needs to be, she needs to make sure she is seen. She needs to make sure she is heard. And I think partially that's one of the ways she does it, making sure that there is always someone with her wherever she goes. I think that really started, like when Isabella, I didn't mention my second child, which was Benjamin, and he passed away before Nicholas came on. And then after that, Isabella had, you know what I mean? Like, so she had us for herself for a long time before Nicholas came. And then when Nicholas came, she was very jealous and she needed all the attention. And when Victoria came, even more so. And I do think that's one of the ways that she makes sure that she still has the attention. But I might be wrong and might have other, other roots. And I think I never cut it down either. You know what I mean? Like, so there has been obviously moments that I'm like, Isabella, can you do this by yourself? Or, you know what I mean? And she will do if she has a friend. She will do if she has, as I said, even her youngest sibling, but she won't do it by herself.
Yeah, this is like, I don't want to hijack this podcast episode. I think this deserves its own coverage, This is an important topic to work with her through her loss, through her grief, with her sibling and find some ways to be by herself and cope. Like that would be the next level. Yeah, thanks for sharing. That does give a little bit of more information. But then again, your condition doesn't improve if everybody needs you and everybody doesn't want to use their own space. Then they're constantly on top of one another. And how can you create that quiet space for yourself? How are the evenings typically unfolding when all three kids are there and you are there?
So it really depends on the day or what is happening. But usually I will cook while they are in the bath, and then, or I will let them watch a show while I cook, and then they will have dinner and we go to the bath. And sometimes I mean, my mind is so at like they're right here right now. Right now I have my mom here who is doing like who does so much and makes it so easy, that transition, because I can then focus on something else. But there is a lot of like, when they are tired, there is a lot of competition for my attention and for my being with them and for my engaging. And that's when I'm tired too. So that's usually when, like we have more conflicts. So they start fighting between them. And then I have to be the one, obviously, like mediating whatever is going on. So it's a bit chaotic, I would say.
How do you give attention to them when they all need it at the same time? I'm curious. Maybe you have developed some kind of technique, or I would love to hear from a listener who has more than 2 children.
I think it goes in the order of priority need, right? Mm-hmm. So if there is someone hurt, that's the priority. And then I think that's what makes the 2 older ones fight even more, is because the little one is generally more tired at that time. Mm. So then she becomes a priority because she's smaller and has a less, has a smaller threshold, and so it's like automatically, as a mom, you go to that younger siblings' need need. Yeah, so it's always a priority need. And then if someone is tired and someone needs cuddles, you know what I mean, like I try to go and cuddle each of them individually, but it's challenging, I'm not gonna lie. I just deal with it as it comes, and I do not have technique that I use that works all the time. And sometimes it works, and sometimes everyone is upset, and we just deal with it on as it comes.
But I really want us to at least find something helpful for you. I feel like we're raising all those important issues. Who is that? Hi, I'm Anna.
Also that.
Maybe we should keep this in the episode. Victoria, do you need mommy's attention now?
She is nursing now, so she's happy.
But here is what I would say. By giving your attention to the younger one always when their older children are there too, don't you think that creates a bit of disbalance? Is it fair all the time to the older siblings, right? I mean, if you were the older siblings, and maybe this is the perks of growing up with siblings. You know, sometimes when siblings fight, parents always try to get the toy from the older kid and give it to the younger kid. It's always they try to protect the younger kid or attend to the younger kid's needs. And yes, they are a priority, but is it always fair to the older siblings? Or maybe you can create a bit of balance, right? So that they don't feel left out and dismissed and angry and jealous and resentful.
And I can have a whole podcast with Isabella about that. She will tell you all about it because she's very verbal about it. And she says, it's not fair because the youngest ones always gets all the attention. You never give me any attention. And she goes on and on and on. But it's also interesting how giving attention sometimes is letting, it doesn't matter if I do something with her alone, you know what I mean? Like I have this special time with her, or it's about like that moment that everyone needs and me going first to her versus to her siblings, you know, or that moment that she's fighting with Nicholas and I'm asking Nicholas what is all about versus her because she's the oldest one. You know, like it's very specific. It's not, and I don't take it personally in a way, you know what I mean? Like, because I know it's not that I neglect her, you know what I mean? Like that I don't give her any of my attention, but I know it's specific moments that she needs my attention and the choices I make in those specific moments.
Give me a bit of clarity on this specific moment.
For instance, the three of them will be downstairs and Victoria starts crying, right? And I will ask, Isabella, what's happening? Because she's the oldest one and I know she will be more articulate in explaining to me what's going on. And then she will say, why do you always ask me? I didn't do anything. You know, like I'm not, it's not that I'm saying like, what did you do? Or, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's like, I'm just asking her to tell me what's going on. And she will be like, why are you always asking me? I didn't do anything. It's not my fault. That's the first thing that she's going to say.
Yes, because when you ask, she automatically feels responsible, right? You're putting pressure on her.
Exactly.
And she wants to be treated just as Victoria, the way you treat Victoria. I think by asking that question, and she also feels like you're trying to find her guilty. So maybe you can stop asking that question, what's going on? Does it really matter what's going on from your perspective as a mother when Victoria is crying? Because since you're asking a question and you're not getting a response, is it really helpful to even ask that question? Right? Or are you still going downstairs and checking on the kids? Right? If that's your next step, then don't ask the question and just immediately go downstairs. Or maybe you already know from knowing your children, if she cries, what kind of cry is that? Is it a severe cry that you need to attend, or it just a passing cry? Somebody took her toy or hit her Lego structure or something like that, and it's like that.
Yes. I think you're right. Sometimes I do not need to ask the question, and sometimes I could either make a decision on myself without having to have her being the intermediate.
Yes, that will take that additional pressure off of her to be the oldest kid and be more responsible and all of that. I have another parent. I think this is very common when there are multiple children. Automatically, the older kids becomes, in the eyes of their parents, the oldest and the more responsible, which obviously they're still children. They still have the same needs.
Mommy.
She's so sweet. I have another couple that I'm not couple. I have another parent that I'm working with. He's a single father, and being a single father is tough. Full-time single father. He has 2 children, and he constantly asks for the older child for help in supervising the younger kid, helping, and all of that. And he puts it into words that your dad is sidekick, you're this, your dad. I mean, just imagine growing up like that, right? In the from the child's perspective, children should be equal, and not one child has to be more responsible. That can have impact into adulthood. Let's not even discuss what kind of implications it can have on a growing child, constantly being pulled into this role of a parent, even sometimes, right? A substitute parent. Or so, Kelly, there's so many topics that we are speaking about, and I'm not sure if we are finding any solutions or suggestions that will help you. What is your takeaway from our conversation?
I do think there are a couple of things. There is the fact of creating more rules, creating boundaries and more rules, which you know me for a while, and you probably remember that's something I struggle with. So I think that's one of my takeaways. Another one is to finally, I feel like I have some ideas on how I can ask for help, but I then decide not to. So being more proactive on on asking for help and making plans, and stop feeling guilty when my children are not with me. When I'm not there. I think there are, we talked about a little bit about how rich can be this interaction with other people. Mm-hmm. And stop idealizing that those interactions have to be a certain way, or that those have to be certain people. Because I feel like it's also easy to make a trap for yourself. One of the things that I said when you said, "Oh, why didn't you follow up on this?" One of the things that I said was "Oh, we went away," but also I think a family member would be different than just someone that we don't know. Yeah. So in a way I idealize those, you know what I mean? What those relationships out of me and my children should be. And I think I just need to stop doing that.
Yeah, because you come from you come from Brazil, where the families are tight knit, and you saw that growing up, you felt that. And maybe that's that loss that you need to still take a look and say, what's available for me in the United States raising my family? You need to let that idea go that, we wish it was like that. And I'm completely with you. I grew up like that as well, with a lot of grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles, extended family support. But here I am alone. And that's sad, and it's not good. And it's, for us, it's lonely, it's isolating, sometimes it's stressful and depressing. And you need to grieve that. Perhaps maybe you haven't really fully looked at this and accepted the reality and say, what's available for me here? And what are the resources that I can create for myself, as opposed to doing it all by yourself and compensating and feeling like you have nothing inside of you to give, and you're constantly burning the candle from both ends. I want to ask you quickly, like, what do you think, if you were to summarize from your experience, what are the downsides of constantly being with your children? You mentioned being totally emotionally drained. Can you give me a couple of bullet points?
I think for me, it's also like, it's the emotional aspect. It's what speaks louder for me. Mm-hmm. So being emotionally drained is one of them, right? Being not available to connect with them because it almost is too much all the time. So I feel like instead of having more of you, they end up having less of you because you are with them all the time.
Oh my gosh, so true.
Is the quality of those interactions, right? Because when you have selected times with your children, you have more quality, you are more present, you have had, you know what I mean? Like your bucket is fuller maybe from other places or from other things. So I think it's also like my children now perceive me as, this is it. You know what I mean? Like, I have to be there all the time. How dare you have a life?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's also like a different message that, that I feel like it's almost like you are not a human being. You are just a mom, yes. You don't have needs. I have needs, So what I've been trying to shift a little bit more is to that perspective that yes, I'm your mom, but I also have needs, and I'm also, you know what I mean? Like, and my needs are different from yours. And, when you do that, it infringes my needs. And so I think that's another thing, like them respecting you as a person as well as a mother, and understanding that you have needs, even if, they need you all the time. And I think my main thing is creating a boundary for myself. I think I'm always afraid that I'm pushing my children away when I'm creating a boundary. I'm always afraid of saying no to them and they receiving the message of like, I'm rejecting, or, you know what I mean?
Wow. And that's a limiting belief, that needs
definitely.
That needs its own podcast to dig into this limiting belief and uncover what's going on deep inside of this.
Yeah. So having that difficulty, you know what I mean? To say no and to set boundaries clearly, and in a way that is not a baby, that is that,
and maintaining that boundary.
Yes.
Right. Yes, I think
definitely.
Right. It's so that it can have continuous effect. Also, you have two daughters, Isabella and Victoria. Do you want them to be like you as a mother, constantly giving and spreading too thin when they are moms?
Definitely
right?
not. Definitely not.
Right?
Yes. And, when I see, like, when my mother is here, I see where a lot of that comes from and how hard it is to get away from what you were taught or from what you experienced as a child. So definitely, I think my work is always, like, I'm constantly trying to make changes on myself so I cannot pass that down the line.
Yes, I think these are important lessons, that creating the boundary, this personal boundary where the parent begins and ends, where the child begins and ends. When that boundary is clear, it's so healthy for both individuals, for the child and for the parent, to grow and evolve in their own space and not enmesh and merge and have loose boundaries. That then your authentic self is, who are you underneath, right? I think this begins from those early ages, and it's an important work. And many of us struggle with this. And like you said, there is this guilt involved. Maybe I'm rejecting my children when I set the boundary for myself to sit quietly without my children wanting anything or touching me for 10 minutes. Why is this so filled with guilt, right? Even though you know very well that you're going to be a more attuned and giving parent after you carve out 10 minutes for yourself. But nevertheless, it's hard in practice. I challenge you to create that quiet time for yourself. I'm not sure if you could designate space in your home for children, and that may take a longer practice, longer time. But based on our conversation today, at least I want to challenge you on a daily basis in the evenings. Be creative. How can you create 10, 15 minutes of little space for yourself when you're not with your children? Maybe you're listening to a podcast, a music, or to silence, or you're doing yoga, or you're, something of that nature that will recharge you again.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. I'm
gonna follow up with you.
Okay.
To see whether you were able to do it. Especially your mom is here; she can cook and clean. We talked about the physical aspect of help, but what are you going to do for yourself in terms of seeking emotional support for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think if there is a good time to start that, it's now when I have not help. And yes, so I definitely can start a routine where in the evenings I make some quiet time for myself.
Yes. And how will you do that without offending your children, quote unquote, without making them upset? How would you communicate that to your children? And how would you restate that when they come and infringe into your quiet space? Because they may be curious, right? Whoa, what's happening? Why is mom all of a sudden needing quiet space? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
So, give me specifically how you would do it.
And I think that's where I struggle with the most. It's like how to phrase it without feeling that I'm creating an excuse for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would just say, and I don't know if I need to start with an explanation of like, if I need to start with like, Mama is tired in the evenings, and in order to be, to feel better, Mommy needs 15 minutes of quiet time where Mommy's going to go into her room, and Mommy's going to put her headphones on, and Mommy's going to do a little meditation. And you guys can use this time to either be in your room and read a book, or to go do an activity downstairs. But it's quiet time for me, and I don't want to be interrupted. Do you guys think you could help me with that? Or
no, they will yell and scream, no, Mommy, no, you don't need quiet time. I want to be with you in your quiet time.
No. So then instead of you think you can help me with that, forget that, because that's, I know it's like setting yourself for disaster.
Exactly. You need to be assertive.
Instead of a question, it's like, I need you to help me with that. And again, you can have the pushback, but I'm like, I'm going to need your help. If you can't help me, I'm going to still have my quiet time, but I'm going to have to lock my door, or, I'm going to start with my door just closed. It's not going to be locked. Mom is going to be here in 15 minutes. I'm going to be out. And I don't know. I know that's what I struggle the most.
Because let's say, what if, let's be more realistic. Let's say they're all engaged in their activities. Let them be engaged. What if you disappeared for 10 minutes? You went into your room. What will happen?
Right now, with my mom here, I see totally being possible to happen. But, and no one kind of like, and maybe someone asking, where is mommy? Or going to look for me? Or, if my mom is not here, there will be screaming in the house, mommy, where are you, mommy? You know what I mean? Like, or people looking for me and storming into my room and
it's
saying,
okay.
why are you doing this?
I think I want this to be more organic than more scripted. That's how I feel it. I feel like your mom is here. You can start implementing this. Don't even tell them. Don't even notify them. You don't have to justify. This is your time. You are a person. You don't tell your children, mommy has to go to the bathroom. Can I go, guys? I have to go. I really need to pee right now. Guys, I haven't peed in 4 hours. No, you are the parent. You are the leader of the household. Don't over-justify, over-explain something that should be part of your daily routine. Go disappear. Your mom is here. Let's take that example. They're doing their own activities. Oops, somebody said, where is mommy? Let's say Nicholas is banging on your door of your bedroom. You can open the door and say, hi, sweetie. I am just resting here for 10 minutes. I have, a few more minutes left. Do you want to rest with me? But, when we rest, we have to be quiet. We have to close our eyes just like this. You can sit on mommy's lap and we can be quiet together. And if he's squirming, he doesn't want to, you can say, that's okay. Why don't you go downstairs and I will be right with you. If he's crying and screaming and saying, no, mommy, then you can say, oh, you're very upset, but I really need to be by myself for 5 minutes and I will be with you. Here is a hug and a kiss. You go play. I'll be right downstairs. The scenario number one with the younger kids. With older daughter who comes, you can be more, you can say, honey, I feel so tired today. I feel like I need to rest right now. I really want to be by myself, sweetheart. I will be downstairs in 10 minutes. So what would your daughter say if you say something like that?
She would start saying, no, but I cannot be that. If it happens that my mom is not here, for instance, right? No, but I cannot be downstairs by myself. Are you crazy? Like, I'm not going to be here. No, I need you. And she would start going on and on. The other scenario that I could see playing with your first scenario is that Nicholas comes in, he sits in my lap, he's so happy. And then Victoria comes in and says, no, but that's my mommy. And then, and then Victoria and Isabella comes in and now, how come Nicholas can sit there and I can sit there?
Oh, okay. Okay. In that scenario, is total disaster. Ship your children to Brazil already. In that scenario, jokes, apart from jokes, in that scenario, I can scoop everybody into my lap and say, there is one mommy, but there is one lap. Everybody, let's join in for one big hug. But mommy still needs her 10-minute break. That's like, I want you to still set your boundary, set your limit, and send them off to their activity without guilt, without harshness. Just, I think this is what you need to practice. This step is the hardest one, to let go. They're not going to be, they're going to still be alive. They're not going to be hurt or anything, but they're going to learn step by step. They're going to learn. I remember when I cultivated this with my daughter. My daughter was 4 years old. I could not rest. I could not do anything with her being at home. I was in your spot, even though I had one child. And I felt touched out. I sometimes would feel like, oh, just get off of me, leave me alone. I needed that. It was too much. And I said, what if I just tell her, I just need to sit down here and read?
So that's
Slowly, it happens, that there's a lot that we need to work on, the guilt, the letting go and accepting a lot of things. Your children will be okay. And now I know from my experience, my daughter is 11. She respects my boundary when I need to read, when I need to work on a podcast. I have a sign on the door. She's a lot older, but it starts from a young age. You need to practice that.
Yes, and I think that's really true. And I think maybe by practicing that, I can also teach them how to have long time, because I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, we don't have long time in this house. We always need to be interacting. We always need to be with someone, and maybe I can be the model, for them to start seeking this long time for themselves, which I think is important.
Absolutely. We need to be the model for our children. And remember, you think about your long-term parenting goals. They are going to be teenagers. How are they going to have their own space, their own rooms, their own boundaries if we don't practice those things now? This is such important work. Think about the long-term parenting picture.
Yes, and I feel for me it's really learning a new skill, because I do not come from a place or from a family where this long time is valued. We have a lot of togetherness in Brazil. You know what I mean? Like in general as a nation, and in my family as specifically. You know what I mean? Like it was never valued to have long time, to have to take care of your own needs. You know what I mean? Like, it's always about the collective. It's being together and sharing an experience, and not so much about your own experience. And I feel I finally realized the importance of this and the need, and have a real need for it.
Yes, I want to conclude our conversation by asking you to write in your journal, to contemplate and reflect about this question. When I create, space for myself, I feel and start to feel, listing how you feel, how that makes you feel, and when I am by myself, or when I have alone time for myself. This is how I feel my children feel. So something of that nature. Write about this and see, what is your limiting belief? What is your block? And I think writing is a good exercise to reflect on the topics that we talked about together. With that said, Kelly, I hope you will write in your journal with the prompt that I gave you. I'm going to follow up with you on that, and on setting up your quiet space at least daily. And I'm going to ask you how it goes in our community, in our Facebook community, and hopefully you will come and give us some updates. I just want to thank you for being open, present, and discussing some of your challenges with me and with the Authentic Parenting community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you for taking time to talk to me. And it's always helpful to talk to you and hear your get your tools, get a feedback from you. It's always super helpful.
Yes. Take care for now. Bye, Victoria.
Thank you. Bye-bye.